Welcome to the Sonoma County Library video channel. We post new videos every week, so bookmark, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Hi everyone, my name is Miss Kim from the Sonoma County Library, and welcome to Book Read-Alouds at Home. Get comfortable and get ready to listen to a chapter book a week read out loud to you. Feel free to check out the ebook from our library website, sonomalibrary.org, so you can follow along, or just relax, close your eyes, and listen. Now, grab your pillow, grab your blanket, get comfortable. Cinder had to download a map of the palace's research wing to find her way to the exit. Her nerves were so on edge with the prince, with Peony, with everything. She felt like an imposter, roaming the slick white halls with her head bent, avoiding eye contact with the scientists and white-plated androids. Even if she was a volunteer now, a valuable one. She passed a waiting room, complete with 2 net screens and 3 cushioned chairs, and froze, her gaze catching on the window. The view. The city. From ground level, New Beijing was a mess. Too many buildings crammed into too little space, the streets untended, power lines and clotheslines strung across every alley, intruding vines scurrying up every concrete wall. But from here, atop the cliff and 3 stories high, the city was beautiful. The sun was high and its light sang off of glass skyscrapers and gold-tinted roofs. Cinder could see the constant movement of huge net screens and flashing hovers as they darted between the buildings. From here, the city hummed with life, but without all that techno chatter. Cinder sought out the cluster of slender blue glass and chrome buildings that stood sentry over the market square, then tried to trace the roads north, searching for the Phoenix Tower apartments, but they were tucked behind too much city and too many shadows. Her awe slipped away. She had to go back to the apartment, back to her prison. She had to fix Kai's android. She had to protect Aiko, who wouldn't last a week before Audrey got the idea in her head to dismantle her for scrap metal, or worse, replace her faulty personality chip. She'd been complaining about the android being too opinionated since the day Cinder had come to live with her. Besides, she had nowhere else to go. Until Dr. Erland was able to figure out how to deposit the payment into Cinder's account without Audrey finding out, she had no money and no hover, and her only human friend was a prisoner herself in the quarantines. She balled her fists. She had to go back, but she wouldn't stay long. Audrey had made it quite clear that she saw Cinder as worthless, as a burden. She had no qualms dismissing her when she found out a lucrative means to do it, a way that could keep her free of guilt, because after all, they needed to find an antidote. Peony needed an antidote. Well, and maybe she'd been right to do it. Maybe it was Cinder's duty as a cyborg to sacrifice herself so that all the normal humans could be cured. Maybe it did make sense to use the ones who had already been tampered with. But Cinder knew she would never forgive Audrey for it. The woman was supposed to be the one to protect her, to help her. If Audrey and Pearl were her only family left, she would be better off alone. She had to get away, and she knew just how she was going to do it. The look on Audrey's face when Cinder entered the apartment almost made the whole ghastly ordeal worthwhile. She had been sitting on the sofa, reading on her port screen. Pearl was at the far end of the room, playing a holographic board game in which the game pieces were modeled after the girl's favorite celebrities, including 3 Prince Kai lookalikes. It had been long before her and Peony's favorite. But Peony was now battling strangers over the net and looked both bored and miserable about it. When Cinder walked in, both Pearl and Audrey gaped at her, and a miniature version of the prince fell onto his virtual opponent's longsword. Pearl paused the game too late. "Cinder," said Audrey, setting her port screen on the table, "how are you?" "They ran some tests and decided I wasn't what they wanted, so they sent me back." Cinder pulled up a tight-lipped smile. "Don't worry, I'm sure they'll still recognize your noble sacrifice. Maybe they'll send you a thank you comm." Eyeing Cinder with disbelief, Audrey stood. They can't send you back!" Cinder pulled off her gloves and stuffed them into her pocket. You'll have to file an official complaint, I guess. So sorry to barge in. I can see you were very busy running your household. If you'll excuse me, I better go try and earn my keep, so you might actually blink an eye the next time you find a convenient way to get rid of me. She marched into the hallway. Aiko was poking her shiny head out of the kitchen, her blue sensor bright with astonishment. Cinder was amazed at how quickly her emotions switched from bitter to relieved. For a time, she thought she would never see Aiko again. The momentary joy faded when Audrey bustled into the hallway behind her. Cinder, stop! Though tempted to ignore her, Cinder did stop and turn back to face her guardian. They stared at each other, Audrey's jaw working as she stumbled over her surprise. She looked old, years older than she had before. I will be contacting the research facility to check your story and make sure you aren't lying about this, she said. And if you did something, if you ruined this one chance I had to help my daughter... The anger in Audrey's voice broke and then rose into shrill yelling. Cinder could hear her burying tears beneath her words. You cannot be that useless! She pulled her shoulders back, gripping the door jamb. What else do you want me to do? Cinder yelled back, flailing her hands. Fine. Contact the researchers. I didn't do anything wrong. I went there, they ran some tests, they didn't want me. I'm so sorry if they didn't ship me home in a cardboard box if that's what you were hoping for. Audrey pulled her lips taut. Your position in this household has not changed, and I do not appreciate being spoken to in such a disrespectful manner by the orphan that I accepted into my home. Really, said Cinder. Would you like me to list all the things I didn't appreciate being done to me? I've had needles poked at me and prongs stuck in my head and poisonous microbes. She caught herself not wanting Audrey to know the truth, her true value. Honestly, I don't care so much what you do, and I don't appreciate right now. You're the one who betrayed me when I've never done anything to you. That is enough. You know very well what you've done to me, to this family. Garen's death wasn't my fault. She turned her head away, angry white spots flicking in her vision. Fine, said Audrey, her voice losing none of its superiority. So you've returned. Welcome home, Cinder. But as long as you continue to live in my home, you will understand and continue to obey my orders. Do you understand? Cinder planted her cyborg hand against the wall, fingers splayed out, grounding herself. Obey your orders. Right, like, do the chores, Cinder. Get a job so I can pay my bills, Cinder. Go play lab rat for these deranged scientists, Cinder. Yes, I understand you perfectly. She glanced back over her shoulder, but Aiko had ducked back into the kitchen. As I'm sure you will understand that I just lost half a day of perfectly good work hours, and I better borrow your Serve 9.2 to get caught up. You don't mind, do you? Without waiting for a response, she stormed back into her closet for a bedroom and slammed the door behind her. She stood with her back against the door until the warning text in her retina had gone away and her hand stopped shaking. When she opened her eyes, she found that the old net screen, the one Audrey had shoved off the wall, had been heaped on the pile of blankets she called a bed. Bits of plastic had spilled over onto her pillow. She hadn't noticed if Audrey had already brought them a new one or if the living room wall was empty. Sighing, she changed her clothes, eager to be rid of the smell of antiseptic that lingered on them. She shoved the spare plastic pieces into her toolbox and tucked the screen beneath one arm before venturing back out into the apartment. Aiko hadn't moved, half hidden in the kitchen doorway. Cinder cocked her head towards the front of the apartment, and the android followed. She did not look into the living room as she passed, but she thought she heard the strangled sounds of Prince Kai dying from Pearl's game. They had barely stepped out into the main corridor, fairly quiet for once with the neighborhood children off at school, when Aiko wrapped her gangly arms around Cinder's legs. How is this possible? I was sure you'd be killed. What happened? Cinder handed the toolbox to the robot and headed for the elevators. I'll tell you everything, but we have work to do. She waited until they were alone and on their way to the basement before filling Aiko in on all that had happened, leaving out only the part about Prince Kai coming in and finding her unconscious on the floor. You mean you have to go back? Said Aiko as they stepped into the basement. Yeah, but it's fine. The doctor said I'm not in any danger now. Plus, they're going to pay me, and Audrey won't know about it. How much? I'm not sure, but a lot, I think. Aiko grabbed Cinder's wrist just as Cinder opened the chicken wire door to her workroom. You realize what this means? Cinder held the door open with her foot. Which part? It means you can afford a pretty dress, prettier than pearls. You can go to the ball, and Audrey won't be able to say anything to stop you. Cinder pressed her lips together like she'd just bitten a lemon and pulled her wrist from Aiko's grip. Really, Aiko? She said, examining her mess of tools and spare parts. You really think Audrey is going to let me go now just because I can buy my own dress? She would probably tear it off of me and try to resell the buttons. Well, fine. We won't tell her about the dress or about going to the ball. You don't have to go with them. You're better than them. You're valuable. Aiko's fan was whirring like mad as if her processor could barely keep up with all these revelations. Immune to lutemosis. My stars, you could become a celebrity because of this. Cinder ignored her, stooping to prop the net screen against the shelving unit. Her gaze had landed on a pile of silver fabric crumpled in the far corner, barely shimmering in the dusty light. What's that? Aiko's fan calmed to a slow hum. Peony's ball gown. I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I didn't think anyone would ever come down here again, what with you, so I thought I'd keep it for myself. That was bad, Aiko. It could have been infected. Cinder hesitated only for a moment before walking to the dress and picking it up by the pearl-dotted sleeves. It was smudged with dirt and covered in wrinkles, and there was a chance it had been exposed to lutemosis. But the doctor had said the disease wouldn't survive long on clothing. Besides, nobody was ever going to wear it now. She draped the gown over the welder and turned away. We're not using this money on a dress. We're still not going to the ball. Why not? Aiko said, a distinct whine in her robotic voice. Approaching her desk, Cinder swung her leg up and started unloading the stashed tools from her calf. You remember that car we saw at the junkyard, the old gasoline one? Aiko's speakers made a coarse grumbling noise, the closest she could get to a groan. What about it? It's going to take all our time and money to fix it up. No, Cinder, tell me you're joking. Cinder was recording a mental list as she shut the storage compartment and rolled down her pant leg. The words scrolled across her vision. Get car, assess condition, find parts, download wiring blueprint, order gasoline. She spotted Kai's Android on her work table. Fix Android. I am serious. She pulled her hair back into its tight ponytail, strangely excited. Marching to the standing toolbox in the corner, she started fishing for things that might come in handy. Bungee cords and chains, rags and generators, anything to help get that car cleaned up and ready for fixing. We're going to go back tonight. Get it to the parking garage if we can. Otherwise, we might have to fix it at the yard. Now, I need to go back to the palace tomorrow morning and take a look at the Princess Android tomorrow afternoon. But if we're diligent, I think I could have it fixed in a couple of weeks, maybe less. Depending on what it needs, of course. But why? Why are we fixing it? Cinder shoved the tools into her messenger bag, because that car is going to get us out of here. End of chapter 15.
Thank you everyone for joining me. Check back weekly for more read-alouds. We'll have new ones posted every week. And be sure to check out our website, sonomalibrary.org, for up-to-date resources and information. We miss you all. Stay safe. And remember, make reading a part of every day, even if it's just for a few minutes. And have fun with it.